The Bible is one book with many little books in it. Like how Narnia has a set of chronicles that are many books. Today our story from the Bible is from the first book of Kings. There are 2 books called Kings. The first book of Kings is in the Hebrew Scriptures. God didn't actually want us to have a king. He wanted to be the king. But God's people thought a king would be easier. They thought judges who were in charge of discerning God's hopes, dreams, and plan was strange and made them seem different than other nations. They asked and they asked for a king. God warned them that kings were a bad idea. Kings don't always stay faithful to God. There are too many temptations for kings. Money, power, and lots of things. But God gave them a king, which very quickly went badly for them. The kings became ungodly and stopped serving their people too. God anointed a prophet named Elijah. A prophet is a person inspired by God to preach God's message to the people. God used prophets often to try to get his kings and people back on track. But Elijah had his work cut out for him. Ahab and Jezebel were the king and queen, and they had gone so far away from God that now they were worshiping a fake god, Baal. And they had killed their people who were still worshiping God, and everyone was very afraid. Elijah saw that the people were divided and confused. They didn't know who to worship, and they were scared of their king and queen. Elijah knew he needed to stand up to this false god publicly, once and for all. But to do that, to expose this lie for what it was, would put him in real danger. He knew the choice he had to make. Elijah established a challenge. He invited King Ahab and his 450 prophets to prove the existence and power of their God. 2 bulls were brought, one for God and one for Baal. Each side built an altar to their God. They cut up the bulls and placed the pieces on the altar. Wood was laid out under the altar for burning. However, there was no source for the fire. Elijah told them that each god was the source of the fire. The more powerful, rightful God would be able to consume the offering without the help of the people. He invited the prophets of Baal to call for their God. All day long they called. They prayed. They worshiped Baal to encourage him to accept the offering. Nothing happened. Baal didn't send fire. Elijah then called for water. He poured water over the altar, drenching the firewood. He called for more water. He did it again. He called for water a 3rd time. After pouring water on the altar, there were puddles in the wood and on the altar. Then Elijah called upon God. God came with great fire. God consumed the pieces of the bull, all of the wood, and even dried up all of the water. The people watching bowed low and repented to God for not being faithful. They knew God was really God. Right then and there, Elijah had all of Baal's prophets killed. The king left and reported to his wife Jezebel what had happened. They didn't repent. Instead, they sent soldiers to find Elijah, and Elijah ran to the mountains to seek God's help.